This Kinnah is self-explanatory. I don't remember the meaning in the shuls. In many places, it's sung as a chant, and I think that there's obviously there's in chant there's both avelus and a little bit of a degree of nechama, and the degree of nechama is that the Rav suggests that this is the form of Hakaras HaTov to the Kodesh Baruch Hu on Yitzias Mitzrayim, and the lack of Hakaras HaTov in Yitzias Mitzrayim, the Beis Hamikdash in Eretz Yisrael, led to the Churban. Kodesh Baruch Hu is Makir Tov to us. Kodesh Baruch Hu says, "Zacharti l'chesed l'urayich avas kulusayich lecha achrei b'midbar," and Hakaras HaTov is the Hakaras HaTov is something which is the basis of our avodas Hashem. Makir Tov the Kodesh Baruch Hu, we drag the Kodesh Baruch Hu everything which he does for us and did for us all the time, but even for the persecution. We say on Pesach, Tisha under Rabbi saying the Lord Yisroel echad b'levad amalei chalosei shlomachol davar ominyo chalosei. What's the everybody asks, of course, what's the Vihi? But one of the answers, one of the numerous answers, is that Vihi is they shabachol davar ominyo chalosei. Every generation, Kodesh Baruch Hu sends persecution because persecution teaches us what to do. Viktor Frankl writes, life is a series of unending questions. Life is always questioning at every moment. How are you going to respond? How are you going to respond? How are you going to respond? And suffering. Our persecution asks us the question. It challenges us. To make sure we shouldn't be complacent. We have to make sure to have a response at every moment. What is the Jewish response? What's the Torah response? What's our Avodas Hashem response to all the tragedy which befalls us on a constant basis? And in the Kinnah itself, it says that there's one of the lines talks about the honor which we had with Tzeisim Mitzrayim, and it talks about that in contrast, because every line of Kinnah is a contrast, a conscious distinction about the anona, which we find ourselves today. And the question is, what's the difference between honor and anona? I think it's not masculine and feminine so much as dominant and diminutive, which is that at the time when we left Mitzrayim, there was an Ananiah covered. Ananiah covered represented us the Shekhinah, and it was able to give us the Ratzon Hashem. And that's up above, it's guidance from above. But now we find ourselves in Anana and a fog. We find it down here below. And that is a sign of Chema. It says, if you go in a fog, the Kodesh Baruch says, I'm also going to respond in a fog. The whole eschaponim is because we walk about in a fog, we don't do anything to try and lift that fog and try and fight it. The two things one does in a fog. You sound your foghorn, and you feel your weight to make sure you don't bump into anything. So that we have a foghorn. The foghorn is called the Kol HaTorah, Tefillah. Those are things which we have to make sure to be mechazik when we find ourselves in the fog of Golus. And also the other aspect is, Chazal say that the person must do tshuva, the person Chazal say that Beis Hillel, Beisham, argued for 2.5 years, whatever the word Noach means. The bottom line is Chazal say Noach it would be easier for a person not to be created. Chazal say now that you've been created, you have to feel your way. Everything you do, you have to yifashfesh. There's the yifashfesh and mashmesh is, there are many different interpretations, but without getting into that in detail right now, the idea is everything we do to try and pierce that fog, to try and get out of it, to try and find a way through it, and try and find a way to ultimately come to the idea of clarity. As this Kinnah, as no other, does end on a high note. And but again, we only get the high note if first it goes to Avelus. And we can't forget that. And since I'm the last Kinnah which I'm introduced, whenever I speak at Tisha, I always apologize. Because the idea of the person speaking at Tisha is to be more Avelus. It's like a Hesed. It's supposed to try and get people to cry. And like I said, it's very difficult. So I'm sure be Zeichet to find the tears, to cry in Yerushalayim. Sure be Zeichet to the Chama which we have at the end of this Kinnah.
11 Aleph, H2 Gabbai on the Ohaiv 47.